Welcome back to Hardball. After days of taking hits over new disclosures on Benghazi, the president pushed back hard today. He ridiculed the idea that there was a cover-up coming from his administration. He called it a political circus, accused his critics of playing political games, and insisted there was no there. Well, on the issue of the talking points, the president was especially animated. On Friday, we learned that the CIA talking points went through 12 rounds of changes with the heavier than usual previously thought involvement of the State Department and the White House. That it was outlined in a series of emails. Here's what the president had to say about it all today.
The whole issue of this of talking points, frankly, throughout this process has been a sideshow. The emails that you allude to were provided by us to congressional committees. Suddenly, 3 days ago, this gets spun up as if there's something new to the story. There's no there. And the fact that this keeps on getting churned out, frankly, has a lot to do with political motivations. We've had folks who have challenged Hillary Clinton's integrity, Susan Rice's integrity, Mike Mullen and Tom Pickering's integrity. It's a given that mine gets challenged by these same folks.
Was the president right? Is the issue of how the talking points were changed a political sideshow? Well, U.S. Congressman Michael Turner's on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which held last week's hearing on Benghazi. Congressman, thanks for coming on. What is your view of this whole thing? Do you think the president's been dishonest? He's saying basically his integrity's been challenged. Let's go to the issue of the talking points. Do you think he was involved in cleaning them up, changing focus on them, covering up in some way to get reelected? What do you think his role was? Let's start with him.
Well, first off, the truth is never a sideshow. And what we learned in the past week with the congressional hearings is that the narrative that was coming out of the administration from these talking points has no basis in fact. It is, in fact, a fiction. Mr. Hicks, who testified before us, said that Susan Rice hadn't even spoken to him, the lead diplomat, on the ground after the ambassador was killed. And, he clearly said that there were no demonstrations, that this was a terrorist attack. They knew it was a terrorist attack. They knew who had perpetrated the terrorist attack. They had already claimed credit. And yet the White House and the administration chose to write a narrative that was based on fiction.
So you know the president was involved, or who in the White House? You said the White House. Now let's nail you down here. Who told Susan Rice to say what she said that day? Was that the president personally deputizing her to say it was a spontaneous demonstration that evolved into a terrorist attack of some form? Who do you think did it? Was it the president or one of his people? What do you know?
Well, what we know is that Susan Rice, as an appointee of the administration, created this fiction.
Just tell me.
And Susan Rice went on national television and made statements that had no basis in truth.
I watched it, sir, Mr.
She had no basis in truth.
I saw everything you saw. I want you to tell me something I don't know.
When you have a lead administration official, when you have a lead administration official go on television and absolutely not tell the truth.
Well, this is the third time you're saying it. I'm just asking you, what's the president's role? Let me ask you another question again, the same question again. I've asked it 3 times. What did the president know, to your knowledge, in terms of having her say what she said on Meet the Press that Sunday? I watched it. You watched it. Did the president have a role in that or not?
I think he has a role today, and that is, as you and I both have said, we know that what she said is not true. And the administration instead is saying it's politics, instead of saying that it wasn't true.
Okay, so you don't know any more than I know.
It's wrong for the White House to perpetrate this truth. Okay. I can tell you that I know from our hearing that Mr. Hicks who was on the ground, was not even consulted as the administration, and who knows why, perpetrated this narrative that was based on fiction.
Do you know if the Secretary of State at the time, Hillary Clinton, was involved in any way in prepping Susan Rice for that appearance on Meet the Press, where you say, I think appropriately, you said didn't give the full or accurate story? Was the Secretary of State involved? Because what's going on here, the big names are getting bopped by your party, which is the way it works. Yeah, 6th time you've said it.
I just want you to tell me who did it. An administration official goes on national television and says a fiction. Well, that's what obviously we're trying to get down to. Now, the president says he's released emails only because the Congress asked. He's not stepped forward and said, excuse me, I've now learned that a lead administration official on my behalf told a fiction to the nation. That's what he should be focusing on, and that's what we're trying to find out.
You've been investigating this, and fair enough. In the course of your investigations, Mr. Turner, have you come up with any email that suggests the president was involved? Any email that suggests that the White House, through Carney or anybody else, seriously changed the message of that performance by the ambassador to the UN?
Well, I'm glad you spoke. The emails show, which is why there's an ongoing. The emails show, which is why there's an ongoing investigation, that there was a dialogue that changed this narrative to a fiction. What we need to find out is who did this, why did they do it, and why is the White House not coming forward and saying they told the American public a lie? It's a fiction.
No, you just said you didn't know the White House told the lie. I've been asking you now for 5 minutes to give me any evidence you have that the president was involved. Or no, you have to answer this question. You can't skip my questions and end up with an accusation. You've just said the president did this. Tell me how you know that.
Chris, what's great is you get to ask the questions, but I get to do the answers. Chris, you at least agree with me that what Susan Rice said was a fiction. No. Do we agree there? It's a fiction.
Yes, I've agreed with you 5 times, and I continue to ask you a simple question. What role did the president play here? What role did he play, sir?
What's wonderful about you asking these questions is that's why Congress is doing an investigation. So you agree that Congress needs to investigate this further to make certain we get down to who did this, why did they do it, and really where did this fiction come from?
I think it's odd to have an investigation to find out if you know what you're talking about. And that's what you're saying. Congressman Turner,
when you do
is holding an investigation.
Chris, you try to find out the truth.
No, by the way, watch the show. Watch the show at 7 o'clock and see yourself saying the president did it. You said the president did it. You said the White House did it. You keep saying these things, and I ask you, how do you know that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That there is no question that this administration has told a fiction to this nation and has yet corrected it. While the president says it's a sideshow, he has never said it's troubling to me that a lead White House administration official told a fiction.
Do you know if the president had anything to do with Susan Rice's performance on Meet the Press that Sunday? Anything? Do you know anything you can tell me about that?
He appointed her, and he certainly has done nothing since to correct the fiction and to say there's a problem in my administration that someone would go on national TV and tell a fiction.
No, I understand everything you're saying, by the way, except the fact you're bringing the president and the White House in, and you admit it now. You need to hold an investigation to find out if you know what you're talking about, which is an amazing admission, sir.
The president is responsible. It's his administration. It's his appointees. It's his administration. He's the one that took out Benghazi.
Please come back on the show again.
Took out Gaddafi without a post-Gaddafi plan.
Mr. Turner, you're doing your job. But you're not answering my questions. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show.
Thank you. And thank you for your comments on the IRS. You're absolutely right there.
Well,